Hey guys, what's up? Okay. Hey Cora, just hang tight back there, okay, baby? I'm going to get this set up on Facebook and everything. So, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to today's live stream with me and Coralee. Public. There we go. I am going to be sharing the video. If you guys will help me out and do the same, share the video, like the video, invite your friends, share the video, like the video, invite your friends. You know the dealio. And as you guys come in, do me a solid and let me know, how long you've been in recovery. If you're not sober, that is okay. Tell me something that you're grateful for. So that way, everybody's included. Tonight, so here's the deal. Usually on my interviews, you guys, or I guess I like to call them story times, experience, strength, and hope. Usually what I do is I ask the person telling their story to share with us what it was like before they got into their addiction. So what it was like when they were growing up as a kid, what it was like as they were growing up as a kid. Did they have any trauma in their life? Did they have any, let me see, hopefully she can get in here. Did they come from a 2-parent household? Just like what was it like as a kid for them growing up? Then after we hear a little bit about that, then I asked for them to transition us into their experience with using drugs for the first time. Okay. What was it like? How did it feel? Did they enjoy it? That kind of thing. Okay. Let me message her. Hey, Cora, I'm seeing that you're trying to come in, but it's saying that your device is not connected. So what you'll need to do is go to your settings and go to the allow part to allow the camera and the mic to pick it up, so that way it can actually hear you. Okay, I think she heard me. Hey Nat, hey Mercedes, welcome to the members. I saw that you joined. Thank you so much for joining. And those of you guys that are members and patrons, just so you guys know, we are going to do our members and patron only live stream tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Because I figure, we'll probably be on here for a couple hours. And then by the time we get done here, we're all going to be like pooped. And so what we'll do is we'll all go to bed and have a good night's sleep and then spend our Saturday with our families and do the things that we do. And then Saturday night, we'll pop, lock, and drop it on a live stream. Okay. Pop, lock, and drop it. So, hey, Brittany, what's up? Hey, Melissa. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Allie. Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. Good job. Thanks for being here, guys. Hey, Megan. What's up, girl? I'm excited too, dude. I'm excited too. I love listening to people's stories. Like, that's probably one of the most favorite things I like to do. You need to sign in through Chrome and you make sure. Okay. Yay. Okay. I see her now. Okay. Hang tight, girl. Okay. I'm going to bring you on in just a second. So I'm going to so let's everybody get in here and get settled. Okay. Everybody go get yourself something to drink. Get yourself something to eat. I'm going to go grab a big ass bottle of water because y'all know how I am. I have the most, I'll take you guys with me to do that. I have the most driest mouth whenever I'm trying to talk to people and I'll be like cotton mouth, So let's go get something to drink. Get your snacks. Because I don't want nobody getting up during the story. Okay, this isn't the movie theater. You're not allowed bathroom breaks. I want everybody to be focused. Okay. So let me get my ice. Hey, Cassie. Hey, Wendy. Where'd the ice go? Oh. Hey, everybody. Come on in. Nate's battling on his Oculus over there. Hey, Allison, what's up, girl? All right. I'm excited, you guys. Okay. Let me get that. Hold on just a second.
I think it was something that you. She's fucking you straight. Yes. She was like, is it Stacy or Nina on she or he?
Hey, Tammy, what's up, girl?
Look at my fingers.
Hillbilly coffee. Got some water.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Nate's room because he's partying in the living room. And he'll be too loud. All right, here we go. Hell yeah. So just so you guys know, for any of you guys that come on my channel in the future, you don't have to be nervous. It is just literally like two friends chit-chatting. And I just want you guys to know that. Don't ever feel nervous, that you are absolutely safe here. There's another thing, okay? One more thing before I bring her on, you guys. Just remember, you guys, like she's coming on here and sharing her story. You know, there might be some stuff in her story that, you know, is really personal and she's sharing that with all of us. And that takes a lot of courage to come online and show your face and share stuff, you know? And so please, everybody be supportive, you know, supportive and positive in the chat. I don't see no nasty stuff in the chat. And my moderators, please be on your best behavior and watching for that for me, okay? Without further ado, let's bring her on. Hey, girl.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Great. And you are just as stunning as you were in that picture that you sent me.
Thank you.
Tell me this. How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. You look so young.
Oh, thank you.
28. To be 28 again. I feel like I'm an old 60-year-old lady and I'm like talking to you guys like
oh my gosh. No way.
So I'm excited. So your real name is Coralee, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I don't want to be calling you something that you just call yourself on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
No, yep.
Okay, this is what I want you to do, and you don't have to be nervous or nothing. So I would like for you to start us out. The way I do it is I like to hear about what your life was like before drugs, what your life was like when you were on drugs, and then what your life was like after you got sober. So would you share with us what it was like being, you know, a little girl in your family, going to school, and then transition us into when you first started using drugs, what it was like and why you started, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So my childhood, I played soccer my whole life. So I actually started doing drugs a lot later in life than a lot of people do. So from the age of I would say 6 and up, I was playing pretty competitive. And then in my teenage years, I was playing very competitive. So my main focus was on that. At home, everything was good until around I was in grade 4 and my mom got in a really bad car accident. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just changed everything because I had a mom who I knew, and then it kind of just took that away from me, I guess. But at that age, I was so young, I didn't really understand. So I feel like that. Away? No, she didn't pass away. But she's not the same. Do you know what I mean? She was in a really bad car accident. She was depressed. She was bedridden for years. So it was hard. And I didn't understand because I was so young, but I had soccer to kind of distract me. So it wasn't I almost didn't register it. It just So, and my parents were together the whole time until I was about 17. And then they ended up divorcing, which I don't know what's better or worse really. If they divorce when you're a kid or they divorce when you're older, because it still had the same impact on me kind of. Yeah. I remember growing up being just get a divorce already because they were fighting and stuff. But then when they actually did, it was oh my God, you know what I mean? So, but around the age 18, I was going to go for a soccer scholarship actually. So I was going to
and you would love each other. He
played
soccer competitively and for college at Conway, the college in Conway here in Arkansas. And he is obsessed with soccer. He actually wants to build an indoor soccer arena here in Little Rock.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm actually from Canada, Ontario. Oh, wow. Yeah.
I heard that. I heard when you said about. You said, say it again.
About.
Okay, I don't want to distract you. So,
Oh
so
no,
you
it's okay.
played soccer. You had
Yeah.
you guys were you in the car when the accident happened?
No. So she was on her way to work. So yeah, and I just came home and I'll remember it like forever because that day I actually got picked to do my speech in front of the whole school. So I was like really excited. And I came home and I'm like, oh yeah, I get to do my speech and stuff. And then my mom was sitting there and she's like, okay. And I was like, what's going on? And like my aunt and her were sitting in the living room and she's like, I got in a car accident, but it's okay. Like I'm fine, which she like physically looked fine. So I was like, okay. But then like there was more to it, but I was too young. So it's like she ended up getting like fibromyalgia and stuff and just like a lot of physical pain. And I don't know, I was too young to understand. So for me, it was kind of like, it felt like I didn't know I was grieving her, but I was because it was like she was there. But then I kind of felt like I lost who was there before kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, when I was a little bit older, I went, so actually during this time too, which I think is probably didn't help any. I had a boyfriend when I was like 14 and he was like 17. So, and I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, I have like an older boyfriend, but that was not healthy at all. He actually was like a year or two when we started dating, like we dated for 4 years. He actually came and lived with me because his family was like kind of a mess, which I think is inappropriate, but I mean, it is what it is, you know, like now like, looking back, it's like, but
would you let if you had a daughter, would you let your daughter?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Cause that was something it was too much for me to be able to handle at that age. You know what I mean? It was pretty much like, oh, get married at 15, 16, right? Cause you're like living with the person. And it was just like, I wasn't able to cope with those emotions at that age. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't, no way. But I think too, at that time, it was like, they knew shit was going on. So I almost was like, I was pretty spoiled. Let's just say that. Like, they didn't want to say no to a lot of stuff because our lives were kind of a mess already, like because of the accident and stuff. So I see where they're coming from, but it was like in the long run, that was not helpful. So anyway, so then when I was a little bit older, so around like 17 or 16, I would say, I went up to Alabama to go and try out for their soccer team. And then I was going to like Ohio and stuff. And as I was there, it was like I was looking around and all these girls are getting up at like 6 a.m. and like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. And I was just like, you know what? Like I haven't lived. Like everyone, like all the girls are like soccer first, school second, friends last, you know? And it's like, I've been doing that my whole life. Like I see my friends going to parties. I see everyone doing their thing. And it's like, and I've always like, oh, so strict on soccer. And I just kind of got to a point where I was like, do I want to do this? Like it's been and this is going to be way more serious than what I've been even doing and stuff. So I decided that I wasn't going to go. And that really upset my dad because we're Italian and he didn't have a boy. And I was like, kind of fit into that mold a little bit of being like the sports player and stuff. So he was upset about it, but it was what it was. And that's when I kind of fell into like my first taste of really drinking and like going out because I was like, I missed out on all this in my teenage years. Like I was still a teenager, but I missed out when like it was appropriate, I feel like, to be like silly and dumb. And like now here I am like 17, 18 and I'm like going to the bars and like going hardcore kind of thing, you know, because I never got to do that. So I felt kind of like left out, I guess, you know, from the rest of my friends.
Like your parents were parenting you out of guilt because they probably felt the weight of your mom probably felt the weight of her not being up to par after having the accident. Then their relationship deteriorating, you know, they felt guilty about that. I know I parent my son out of guilt a lot and it's hard not to. It's just like, we want you guys to have everything. We love you so much and we don't know what else to do, you know?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, now that I'm older, I've gone through the stages of like, I forgive for a lot of the stuff, you know, like since I've been sober, I've been in therapy, like since I got sober kind of thing. So it's like a lot of the stuff I have worked through and like, I do understand. I guess when you're like a little bit younger, you only see them as parents, you don't see them as people, you know what I mean? So I had a lot of resentment and anger towards them for like a lot of different things. And when I decided like, I'm not going to do soccer, this and that, I was like in my, I don't give a fuck stage. It was like, I cared about you. I cared about you. I was doing everything for you guys and like, no one paid attention to me. So now it's my turn to just like, it was like I wanted revenge, but really I was only hurting myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were going through your rebellion.
Absolutely. And it was like, they had a rebellious teenager, but I was like almost like 18, 19, you know what I mean? But they were like getting that like 14-year-old kid kind of thing, So it was like, you couldn't tell me anything. I wanted to do what I wanted to do kind of thing, So, so I wouldn't say I was like, maybe I was like addicted to alcohol. I don't know. Cause it was like, I just enjoyed going out and like getting my mind off stuff and just being crazy, And it's like, I don't know if that's addiction or just kind of me like letting loose and having that stage in my life type of thing. But, I ended up going to college. So in Toronto. So it's about like an hour and a half from where I was living. And I was like, I just want to get out of here. Like I took something I didn't care about and I just wanted to go. I just wanted to like not be in my hometown anymore. And I just wanted to like try something new. So I went up there and like I passed and everything. I graduated, but like I couldn't tell you a thing that I like learned. You know what I mean? Because it was like I wanted to go. It's like Toronto's like a city. It's like I wanted to like party. That's like all my mind was focused on. So my roommate, she was like my best friend. She's still my best friend to this day, actually. And we played soccer together all our lives. She was kind of going through the same thing where it was just like, we're done with soccer and stuff. And now we just kind of want to party. But I think I was going through a sense of like, I don't know who I am anymore because I was like that soccer girl, like my whole life. It's like, that's what I did. And so when I didn't have that structure and I didn't have that like label, I guess, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then also, sorry about that boyfriend. And then when we ended up breaking up, it was like, I was like 17, 18. So I mean, so it was all kind of happening around the same time where it was just like, I don't want a boyfriend. I don't want anything. I want to go crazy kind of thing, So I was kind of dealing with a lot. And then also just like wanting to party and stuff. So that's when I would say I was starting to like dabble into the harder stuff. I don't know if you guys have these here, but do you guys smoke poppers? So
Wait,
what they call
poppers, and what they are is they're like a thing.
Yes. Yeah, you sniff. Okay, so there's this. So there's
them during.
Yes. So it's not that. So it's when you smoke from a bong and you put tobacco and you put weed on top and then you smoke a bong.
Why would you do that?
Because it gives you. So this is the thing. It gives you a head rush, a really big head rush.
Okay.
And if I were to say, and like at that time, I never tried hard drugs, so I love that head rush. So I feel like that's what like already started. I was addicted to that head rush. You know what I mean? So I always say now to this day, like if you've never smoked crack, that's like the poor man's crack, like in my opinion, it's like,
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It gives you that same type of like, whoa, like, when you like, yes. So I was like smoking those, which I mean, I don't know if you can say you can be addicted to that. I definitely was. It's like I couldn't eat, sleep, wake up until I smoked one. So I was kind of already getting into that habit, but it was like, oh, it's just weed. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a big deal. But when you have those like unhealthy behaviors around it, it's a huge deal, So yes. I was really bad into that and the drinking and stuff. And that's when I started doing like Coke. I would like try Coke here and there. And then I got into MDMA.
What was like the first time you did cocaine? Like, I want you to tell me the very first time you did.
Okay. So for cocaine, I was so drunk that I feel like it just kind of gave me like a whoo, but I didn't really even like it. I don't think. I think that it was just, I was so drunk and it was there that like, it wasn't something I fiend after I did it the first time. What I would fiend was the MDMA. That was like really, really bad. The first time I tried that, I have never felt something like that in my entire life. Like all my dope, like I just was obsessed. Like I didn't care about anything. I felt amazing. And I would go to class and I would like sit there and be like, hey, like, when are we done? When are we done? You know what I mean? It was like my first time, like really tweaking for a drug. But in that moment, I didn't know that's what it was. I just like wanted to party. Like I was still in that like denial stage for sure. But yeah, so and then that would make me super depressed doing the M. Like I wake up the next.
So would you do it like binges and then crash, or would you do
No, I would do it one night. So we would like, I'd wake up at 4 p.m. and then I'd be like, I'm not drinking tonight. And I'd be like, oh yes, you are. And then all my friends would come over and then we would start drinking. And as soon as I started drinking, that's when I was like, okay, well, we're going to get like drugs and stuff, So, and then we'd be up until 5 a.m. and I would smoke a bunch of weed, like in the tobacco and stuff. And then I'd go to sleep, I wake up and then the same thing. You know what I mean? So it was kind of more like that at that age. Like I wasn't still like, I wasn't like hitting benders of like days by that point, like right. I still needed to go to school. I still whatever. And I don't think I like to party, but it wasn't in that like, I need it like to survive type of mode yet,
Right. You hadn't gotten like dependent on it yet.
No. Well, maybe, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
because that's when I started to get really, really bad. Like I was so depressed. I have never been so depressed in my entire life. Like I remember that time, like my roommate called my parents and were like, you need to do something, like something's not right. I would like sit in the washroom and just like scream, cry, and I didn't know what was wrong. And like, I was so, so bad. So at that point, my parents like didn't speak to each other. They were divorced at that point, and like they did not like each other, and they both came down in a car and like picked me up.
That was
exactly. That's what they came down and they picked me up and then like grabbed my car and were like, like, you need to go because like something's not right, type of thing. And then my like memory is kind of blurry from there. Honestly, I feel like nothing really stopped. I think I just like kind of came home and like chilled for a bit, and then I went back to school. So the whole school was kind of just that. So I like did coke maybe 3-4 times in college, but not anything like major, and it was more the M. But when I did come back, I couldn't get that.
Right.
So it was like I would go to the clubs and stuff and be like, oh, like, do you have anything? And I would like take it, and it's just like not the same, whatever. So I kind of started to like fall away from that. And as my friends started to kind of like not go as heavy as like, okay, I don't feel like getting high tonight, I'd be like, I do. You know what I mean? And I started being the person to like want to find new drugs and do new drugs and stuff like that. And then I started to kind of wean away from my friend group and starting to like find new friends at that point. You know what I mean? So that's when it started to get bad. So I ended up coming home and I went on vacation, and I remember I like couldn't smoke weed or anything. I came home, I'm like, oh, I'm sober. Like, this is how I want to live. I'm like, I feel so much better and healthier and stuff. And then I go find a job. And then at this job, I meet a new guy. And he is in his I don't give a fuck stage. And I think like, I was attracted to that. You know, it's like as much as I wanted to be sober, I was still probably only like 21 or 22. And I was just like, oh, a bad boy. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. It was like, so we like immediately kind of like I don't know, it just came together, you know. It's like, and he asked me out on a date, and our first date, we went out to drink. And that first night, like we got super, super drunk, and it was like, oh, a party buddy. You know what I mean? I feel like that's how we both felt. We're like, you can keep up, I can keep up, great. And that ended up being an absolute mess of a relationship because that was like the person who introduced me to my drug of choice.
What was your drug of choice?
Opiates.
Okay. I'm excited to hear about this.
So we would like party and stuff, and it was usually together. But the thing with him is that he never wanted me to do anything without him. So that's where it was starting to get bad with the drugs. It was just like, oh, you went to this person's house tonight? Like, did you do drugs? And it's like, well, yeah. I'd be like, well, then why didn't you invite? And you know what I mean? It was weird. So now I started to have to hide when I was doing drugs because it was like, oh, we can do them together. You can do them without me. But then if I go do them, God forbid, type of thing, you know? So it was already starting to get unhealthy. But I remember the day I was like in the shower and he was like, hey, I got something. And I was like, what? And he's like, and he passed me and it was a Percocet. And I was like, and I had never tried anything. It's like, I pretty much tried everything but that at this point because I knew that I would probably like it. And it kind of scared me a little bit. So I was like, so he's like, try this. And I was like, what is it? He's like, just try it. And I was like, well, I want to know what it is. And he's like, just trust me. I would never give you anything that would hurt you. I remember him specifically. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I took it. And then later when I ended up getting high from that, I remember turning and looking at him and being like, I don't ever want to not feel this way. Like, this is how I want to feel for the rest of my life. And he was like, don't say that. Don't say that. And I'm like, it's true. Like, I don't like, this is it. This is the solution. This is like everything to all my problems. Like, this is it. Like, thank you, kind of thing. And you could tell in that moment that he was like guilty. Like, he knew like he shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But so since that day on, I was absolutely hooked. So it was like, I was getting so first I started with Percocets, and I was getting like 10 at a time, and I would put them in my mouth and I would chew them and I would swallow them. God, and I know, like, it was disgusting. I know. Girl, it'd be like it'd be like chalky, and I was just like, don't care. Like, I loved it, you know? Yeah, exactly. And like, we were getting bad at this point. So we started finding like bad friends. Like, so we worked at a bingo hall. Okay. And that was just like a cesspool for drugs. You know, it's like you have the older ladies who want to gamble, but they have medication. So they'll sell their medication to get, it was like, it was weird. It was like, I walked into like a whole environment that I had no idea about. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, whoa, it was really like seedy. You know what I mean? And I didn't expect it to be like that. But as soon as I started getting into like the bad drugs, you could start to like see how seedy the place was. And just the people who worked there and stuff, they all were like hard partiers. So now it's just like, this is where my bender started. So it's like the whole place that I like, don't get me wrong. I loved every single person I worked with. They were absolutely amazing, but there are people who have their own problems too. And like, we all kind of just, and this was like, this is the times where I could like get away with not sleeping for 2 days because, well, my manager the next day was there with me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it was, so that was like pretty much like a life ruining time. That's like when I progressed into like the worst. So then I was still doing cocaine and I was still doing perks, and then the perks weren't working. So I was still doing cocaine, and then I was trying to find oxys. Well, then oxys were hard to come by, and it was just like I could take like 340s, and that was like how much money, and it would last me 1 day, if that. You know what I mean? It's like, that's nothing. And then I'd get off work and be like, okay, I want to do some cocaine. But as soon as I got cocaine, well, now I need something to bring me down. Okay, something to bring me down. Now I need something to bring me up. And I was stuck in that cycle of like, okay, after I come down, I'll go to bed. But that would never happen. And then I'd want to do coke again and stuff. So I was getting into those bad cycles. And then I met this girl who like I don't even want to give attention to because she was a very scary person. I didn't know if she was like obsessed with me or wanted to be me or kill me. Do you know what I mean? Like one of those people where she latched on hardcore, and it was like, I'm miserable, I'm going down. If I'm going down, you're going down with me type of thing. You know, she almost wanted to be just like, I don't know, like what's the phrase? Like
I know what you mean, though.
You know, yeah. It's like, be my party buddy.
Wears all the same stuff you wear, gets the same kind of job that you get. Like,
yes.
Kind of like, and
wants
to be best friends, but you don't feel like the same way she does.
Absolutely. And I almost felt bad in a sense because it was just like, she's a nice girl and stuff. But as time would go on, I was like giving me weird vibes, you know? She was kind of scary in a sense, you know? Like at some points it's like, so for example, the one night I was getting sick, and I was like, okay, like I don't feel good. I need something. She goes, well, I can get you heroin. And I'm like, okay. Or no, she didn't say okay. She's like, I have something that might help you, but it's not oxys. And I'm like, well, what is it? And she goes, it's white China heroin. I look at it, I go, no, that's not. I'm like, that's not heroin, that's fentanyl. So you're literally lying to me into my face to tell me, oh, that's white China heroin, when I know it's not, and I know that you're trying to now give me fentanyl and lie about it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like weird shit like that. Like, that's scary. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's like, you could tell she didn't have my best interest at all, but also I didn't want to let go because she did drugs with me, you know? So it's like one of those weird friendships. But she was the first person that I ended up smoking fentanyl with. So I did. I was like, fuck it, I don't care. And then that hooked me onto that. So I would say at first, so that I smoked it, and I don't really think I smoked much, but I also started snorting some meth that night. Mm-hmm. And when I woke, to go all the way back, I used to get panic attacks in college. And I think that was just from not dealing with my mental health. So I was just like, a lot of shit was going on. I just kept drinking and pushing everything down to a point where everything would be like up. And then they'd be like, I don't know what's wrong. But that's because a million things are wrong. And you're not taking care of anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would get like super bad panic attacks to the point where like people thought I was having a heart attack, or people thought I was like gonna like have a stroke and stuff, and they'd have to call the ambulance because I couldn't breathe, and like my body would go into like seizing type thing, and like it was really scary. And like the first couple times it happened, I thought that I was having anaphylactic shock because of like my body, I was like, it's shutting down. And then as soon as the paramedics would get there, they'd like put the thing on my thing and they'd be like, no, you're good, like everything's fine. I'm like, how? That doesn't make sense, you know? And then the one paramedic one time was like, have you ever heard of panic attacks? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I think that's what you're having. So fast forward to this night, I was doing meth, and I'm not a meth person. So this is the thing with me, is that I have a much stronger mind now, but I did not have a strong mind, and I didn't like meth because it fucked me up. Like I was not mentally strong enough to start seeing shit, because that was going to freak me the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
Like,
what you mean.
like I was like good with like being tweaked out on coke because I don't know if there was a difference, you know? It's like something
Yeah.
about meth is just like you start really getting paranoid. It's like I'm already like that. I can't take that even more. It's like the people who would do meth that I was ever around were such strong-minded people, and it's like they loved it. But for me, it's like no, like I just couldn't. So anyway, started some meth, and then the next morning I hadn't slept. And I'm like, oh, I actually don't mind this right now, blah, blah, blah. And then almost I started working myself up and I had a panic attack. And I will never forget this either. This was like so sad. But so I called the ambulance and I'm like, I think I'm having a panic attack. Like, you need to call the ambulance, like the person I was with. And they called the ambulance. And I remember being in the ambulance, like, what did you take? And I'm like, well, I took some meth and I also took some fentanyl. And they're like, when? I was like, I don't know, like 4 hours ago. And they're like, okay, it's not that. And I remember crying, just being like, please, I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's just almost like so disregarded. It's like, we heard this before, you know what I mean? And they brought me to the hospital, and like, I remember I was just like so sick, and I was like waiting and like crying and stuff. And like people were just so rude to me. And I just like, at the point I was like, fuck this. I got up and walked away because I was just like, no one cared. No one took me seriously. Everyone just like, oh, look at another junkie off the street, like whatever. And in that moment, I was so upset that I probably would have gone to treatment if someone would have steered me in the right direction. You know what I mean? So it's like, it sucks.
That's why, like, people that become peer support specialists, you guys, that those of you guys that want to help in some way and, you know, help people, become a peer support specialist, because you can work in the emergency room and you can connect with people right there as they come in, you know?
Yeah. So yeah. So, and like, so now I'm like living, like that progressed really fast. So it's like, I was living this like really bad life. Oh, and the boyfriend, I guess too. I started living a double life with him. So it was like, I was doing drugs with him, but then also doing more drugs behind his back. And then I felt like, even though I was doing drugs with him, I was still felt like I was living a double life, because it was just like, okay, in this way I can like be myself. And here I feel like I have to like stand up, like live up to standards, or like be a certain type of person. You know what I mean? And I was so lost and didn't know myself at all that I just like latched onto his personality. So anything he liked, I liked, you know? And I just wanted to be like the best for him and like everything. But then he started getting to a phase where he was just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to grow up type of thing. And when we were dating, I remember he'd always be like, oh, like, this is our life. Let's just like do this together, and like romanticize the whole thing so much. Like, oh, like, I love that you just don't care. Like, let's just like do this forever. Like, I don't care if we live on the street as long as we have each other, like that type of thing, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. But then out of nowhere, he's like, you know what? No, like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then it was still fine when he wanted to do it. But then when I did it, it was too much. Like, we can't do this all the time. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. So it's just starting to get me to like a point where it was like,
control of you. He wanted to control you.
Oh, absolutely. It was, and I didn't see it because I was just so broken, and I just like latched onto that so hard. But it got to a point where I just like, he had to break it up with me, because it was just like, I was never going to let go. And like, I'm glad he did, because it was absolutely necessary and it was super unhealthy. But I almost think it was just like an abandonment thing I was scared of. It was just like, if you leave me, what? Because like at that point I was living at his house and stuff. So it was just like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? You know? And it would piss me off, because his parents would be like, oh, like, try to have like interventions on us and stuff, and act like I was the influence and I was the one who brought all this bad shit into his life. And oh, all of a sudden it was me. And I was like, you have no idea what state I was in before I met this guy. Like, are you kidding me? He would fall past the fuck out and like have shit everywhere, and I'd be cleaning it up to make sure no one found anything. And the one time they found stuff is because I said, fuck this, I'm not cleaning this up. You want to just pass out whenever you want to pass out? I'm not cleaning it up. And then that was the day that they got pissed off and did like some intervention, you know? So it was just like, it was a bad thing. And it was never
they didn't want it. Same with my husband's parents. They didn't want to accept the fact that their son was a drug addict.
Yeah.
So they saw you coming along, and you were the perfect person to shift the blame to.
Absolutely. Like, and I get it. Like, I feel bad too, though, because it's like, I felt like they did want to help, but then also in like a condescending way, like almost like, we'll take you in and help you. And it was like, yeah. So I don't know. I just didn't really like that. And so I ended up having to go to detox. So it was like, when they first kicked me out, I was like, okay, I'll go to detox and like whatever. And I went and I came back and I like finished it. And it wasn't that bad at first because this is when I was still doing oxys. It wasn't that bad at first. So I was like, oh, so I went right back to it.
Right.
And it almost made it worse because it was more of like a mental thing. Like I cried it out. I was fine. And then I was like, I could do that again. You know what I mean? So I went back to it pretty immediate. And then as stuff started to snowball, I just like couldn't put on the persona anymore. It was getting to a point like I can't live a double life. Like I am too far in that like this isn't, I can't. And so he ended up just like, so he ended up just like breaking it off and whatever. And that's when I took my real deep turn because now it's like nothing's holding me back. I have no grasp at like stability in a sense, or like something's like a home or like anything like that, you know, like I just was like on my own at that point. So my parents, like my dad was in denial for sure. Like he knew, but didn't want to ever admit it or like see it, I don't think. And my mom was just, she didn't notice, or she did, but I didn't really hear from her. So it's like, so my dad would like, he bought me like an apartment and he would pay for the apartment. And I would be like, so I'd be staying there and not have to pay rent. So it was almost like he was like, and he'd be pissed. He'd like, you know, you have to pay me rent and stuff, but almost just like still let it go. Cause he knew like I was never going to be able to pay that rent, but he also didn't want me to be on the streets, you know?
Yeah.
So, so that's when I started to kind of take a bad turn. And actually this is like about around the time that I met my fiance who I'm with now. So he was the plug and I met him. I know. And I met him and it was like weird because it's like, you know, when you just meet someone and it's just like you feel so comfortable and you just feel like that immediate, like, oh my gosh, you're my best friend. Like, I feel like I can just be myself with you. I feel like we both had that right away. It's like we met each other one time. And then after that one time, we were inseparable. Like it was almost like we hung out 24/7. And it wasn't even just because he was a drug dealer, because I could get stuff it wasn't just from there that I could get stuff from. You know what I mean? It's just like I genuinely wanted to hang out with him. And I think he wanted to hang out with me. So, but at that time we were just friends. And I knew that there could never be a relationship because being on drugs in a relationship, I just did that. And B, it's like awful, you know, like it gets really bad. I just didn't want to ruin that. And like, he was like my only safe space at the time. I was just like, he's the only person I really trusted. Like the second I would get off work, I would like drive home, like to his house immediately. It's like, so if something happened and I didn't have that, I feel like that would have been like really scary for me kind of thing, you know? And like, I wasn't around the best people either. And I feel like as soon as you almost show interest in someone, then they're just like latching on. It's just like almost to piss you off and stuff. Like it was just a bad situation with bad people. So I always wanted to remain friends. And he had like showed interest in me and stuff, but I was just like, I don't think that's like, we should do that, whatever. Like maybe if one day, if we get sober, we could try, but like, I don't want to right now and stuff. So we were doing coke and he never did, he was an opiate guy. He was like a meth and he liked coke and like meth and stuff. And I was like opiates. And I remember doing coke with him and I would cry for like hours and hours because my face hurt so bad. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like my nose hurts so bad. And it was like, because it's eating away at your nose and your face. You know what I mean? Like
I posted a video on here. I'll have to show it to you guys of my friend. And basically cocaine ate the whole like right side of her nose off. She had a hole in her face. She just got reconstructive surgery on her nose to like build another nose. They had to take skin from her forehead. I
think I saw that.
Yes. And it was so serious. And then my other friend Holly, she was doing pills, snorting pills, and her top up there, whatever it's called in your mouth, it's all eaten away. It's just one big hole that goes straight up into her face.
I don't doubt it, because that's why I chew the Percocets, and I wouldn't ever snort them. Ever be like, why don't you just snort them? And I'm like, I can't, because it hurts. Like and I don't feel like you get the bang for your buck that way either. Like so I was never really about snorting pills. It was just coke, and then like I would just take the pills. But yeah, I remember that one day, and I'd be crying. I'd be like, you need to give me another line. Like my face hurts so bad. And he's like, yeah, but that's only going to make it worse. I'm like, yeah, but it will numb it. Like, you know, just in that cycle of like whatever. So that's when I was like, okay, why don't you try smoking it? And I was like, I guess that's a solution, you know,
no.
So that's pretty much why like both of us started smoking it, is just because we couldn't handle it. Our nose couldn't handle it anymore because we were doing it day and night, like all day and all night kind of thing. So it was getting to a point where like, okay, let's just try smoking it. And then that's when I pretty much started smoking everything else. So I was like smoking at that point crack, and I was smoking fentanyl.
God.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Crack makes you a fiend. Like I don't know.
Oh my God.
But
I was a fiend.
I would be out there pawning my rings, giving away stuff.
Yes.
Like, to get more.
I was a fiend. I would get off of work and I'd be like fly over to his house after work, and I'd be like on the phone with him, like, okay, get one ready, like I'll be there in like 2 minutes, just make sure you have it cooked and ready for me, because like it's got to be ready when I get there, kind of thing. Like I was like, and I'd get there and I'd come in and I would just like smoke the biggest, and I'm like, okay, so how was your day, type of thing. Like it was bad. Like I was a really, really bad fiend. I would like sit there and scrape, like like super, super bad. And fentanyl, like I was addicted to the crack, but I was more addicted to the fentanyl, for sure.
Did you ever overdose on fentanyl before?
I didn't. No, my friend did in front of me, which was really scary, but I've never OD'd, which was like very shocking. I remember when I went into rehab, or sorry, in a detox, I remember one of the ladies sitting there talking to me. She's like, have you ever sat in a car and pressed the gas and the brake at the same time and listened to the engine? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that's what your heart is doing every single time you're taking both of those drugs at the same time. Like your heart is only going to take it. If you sit there and press the gas and the brake over and over again, how long is that engine going to last? Like it's going to explode. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be able to do it. So you have to be careful. And like, for some reason that stuck with me. Obviously it didn't change anything, but it stuck with me, you know, like it was like, oh, that's really scary when you think about it. But luckily, thank God, I didn't ever overdose.
Thank God.
I only smoked fentanyl but I smoked fentanyl for like a year. So like I was in an active, like hardcore active addiction for probably like 6 years, but I only smoked fentanyl for the last 1 year. But that's how fast my life deteriorated more in that 1 year than it did that 6 years, like leading up to it.
Did you have to go to rehab?
Yes.
Or how did you, tell me how it transitioned me into how you ended up getting off of fentanyl and getting sober.
Okay, so I was just like living like any other addict, you know. It's just going to bad places. Like I had nothing like in my house, you know, and my house was just like pretty much a trap house. People were in and out all the time. Like the door was open. I didn't care who was in and out. Like people were cooking on the stove, like bad. And I remember just getting to a point where it's like, I cannot live like this anymore, but I physically cannot stop. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was just so tired. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot live like this. I cannot sit here and like wait for drugs, be sick, not be sick. Like, it wasn't fun anymore. And it wasn't fun for a long time, but it was getting to a point where it's just like, I would almost rather just die than keep doing this at this point, because like, I have nothing left. I have nothing. Like, I don't have any friends, family. I have no stuff. I have like nothing. So what the fuck's the point of this anymore? You know? But then like, in the same way, I couldn't just stop, you know? So I remember my last time smoking, I was like sitting and the thing with fentanyl too is like, you just like, everyone always says it's like, oh, like heroin is like more euphoric than fentanyl. It's like, I always compare them as like, heroin is like people want to get high. Fentanyl, you just want to nod out and like not be conscious in a sense, because it's like with fentanyl, you almost like cannot stop yourself from nodding out. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I feel like once you get to that point, you just like really don't give a shit anymore, you know? And it was like, so that's kind of where I was. It's like, I remember smoking it. And then I just remember waking up and being like, and like looking around and being like, no one's even here. Like, if I just died, no one's here. I don't even remember nodding out. I remember falling asleep and like, thank God I woke up. But if I didn't, you know what I mean? Like what would have happened? So I just remember calling my dad and being like, can you drive me to rehab tomorrow or to detox tomorrow? And the thing is, it's like, I had gone to detox like 4 or 5 times. And every single time I would go, I'd call like my fiance now. I'd be like, come get me. I don't want to be here. I'd be there for like 5 minutes and be like, nope, can't do this. And he'd come get me and like, whatever. But this time I was just like, I can't do this. So he brought me like 2.5 hours away to a detox. So I had to like, because it was just too easy to call someone to come get me. You know what I mean? So I went to detox, and since I had actually participated and shown like interest in wanting to get better, they were like, okay, there was a spot from someone who can't make it to like the rehab, so you can come back in 2 weeks to come to rehab. And like, luckily in Canada, like this was free. So like, I didn't have to pay for my rehab, which is like amazing,
That's
you know?
nice, man. That's real nice.
Yeah. it's very helpful. So I came home, obviously used again, like I couldn't stay, but luckily, like before you go into the rehab, they have like a transition period of like 2 days in detox, just because they assume people are probably going to use again. And then you go actually into like the rehab treatment. Well, they wanted to put me on Suboxone, and I had never been on any type of mat in my life at this point. Like every single time I was going to detox, it would always be from like oxys. So I felt personally I didn't need like mat treatment, but getting off of fentanyl is some other beast. Like that is like something like no other. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can't do this cold turkey. Like I'm going to need something. They're like, okay, so so it was like a Tuesday or like a Monday. Like on Wednesday, Wednesday morning, we're going to put you on Suboxone. It's like, perfect. Well, someone came into the rehab that I knew and they had fentanyl on them. And I was like, oh my God, give me some, like I want some, blah, blah, blah. And so she gave me half of what she had because we were friends like outside of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I hear you can have some. And her thing was more crack than it was fentanyl. So she didn't really care as much, just needed like a little bit to get her by. But she wasn't there to really like to get better. I don't know why she was there, to be quite honest, but it wasn't to like take it seriously in my opinion. So anyway, so she gave me half of that.
Because the devil sent her there. It's like a spiritual warfare when you're trying to get sober.
Oh,
you're like,
I'll tell you something creepy about that. Yes,
between heaven and hell, and there's little demons that are sent to try and knock you off your pathway. And that was a demon that was sent to knock.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you a really scary story too, actually, about that. But so I took it, and then I didn't realize with Suboxone, I didn't understand how it worked. So I was smoking it all day, all night. Goes into Wednesday morning. I'm smoking it all Wednesday morning. I go in to take my Suboxone. They go and take my piss test. They go, it's dirty. And I go, I don't know. Like, I have no idea why it's dirty. She's like, okay, maybe there's like a long lasting opiate in your system. Like, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't do anything. They're like, okay, well, it shouldn't be like a big deal. Like if it's like how many days you came in here before, like if it's still in your system, it should be leaving. Like we should be able to give you Suboxone. They give me 2 milligrams to start out with. I'm like, okay, whatever. I start to get the shakes and the sweats because now it's just putting me into full out withdrawal. And I'm like, I don't feel good. And they're like, okay, that's like, so they're like looking and they're like, okay, so it says to keep giving you higher and higher dose until you don't feel withdrawal anymore. So they give me more. It makes it worse. They give me more. It makes it worse. So I'm up to 12 milligrams and I am dying. Yep. The only way I can describe it is how it feels like you can feel the poison coming out of your like bones. Like that's how it feels. It feels like you can like literally feel poison coming out of like your bone marrow. Like it's disgusting. Like, and you're like twitching and like it sucked for me too because it was like in full force because it wasn't like, oh, slowly detox. It was just like, bam, like hardcore, like withdrawal at once. So, I mean, it sucked, but then also was kind of good because within 2 days I was like, good. Like it was all detoxed out on my body and I was fine. So while I was there, I succeeded. Like I was doing amazing when I was in rehab. I loved it. I was in such a good mood. I felt like myself, like I was like doing really well. But the story about the demon thing, I took a nap one time and I was by myself and I remember sleeping and I'm like, and so I started getting really bad sleep paralysis at this time. Okay. And I like, don't know why. And when I talked to a doctor about it, he said, it's because you were like taking fentanyl. So your sleep cycle is very like intricate. And if you're just going asleep, your body's relearning how to go into every stage of sleep to fall asleep again. So your body's just probably messing up kind of thing. But I was getting them like super, super bad. So I remember specifically like sleeping on my bed and I thought I heard someone come in and start talking and we had like roommates. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then I started hearing like people talking and come sit on the bed and like touch my arm. But then when I went to wake up, I couldn't wake up because I was like in sleep paralysis, but like I could see the bedroom. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
One time and I freaked the fuck out.
Fucking terrifying. So it's like almost like you can see your surroundings, but you're still asleep and you can't move.
Right.
So, and then I could hear someone like whispering in my ear and it almost sounded like a witch cackle. Like it was really terrifying and it just got louder and louder and until I could like wake myself up. And I remember I'm crying, I'm looking around, I go run out of the hall, and like someone's in the room down the hall. I'm like, did someone come up here into my room? He's like, no. I'm like, I run downstairs. I'm like, I think there's ghosts here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like putting salt in front of my doors. Like I was like terrified. But then I remember talking to my friend about it and she's like, it's probably just like the spiritual part of that whole thing. It's just like the evil, like how you're detoxing, like the evil, like physically, it was probably like the spiritual part of that as well. It's probably just like part of the detox. I'm like, you know what, that actually does make sense, because it actually felt like scary and evil. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like, I don't want to be dramatic, but honestly, doing drugs is like the closest thing to like doing a deal with the devil that I have ever like imagined. You know what I mean?
I
And
know
like,
what you mean.
yeah, and I feel like it's like, from the grace of God, people get out of that grip, because that's like legit. Like, you're like, I want to feel better, and I don't give a fuck how you make me feel better. Just make me feel better right now. And then once you get into like the grips like that, it's almost like you're like, oh my God, what did I do? You know what I mean?
I know. That's how I felt whenever I started shooting methamphetamine. I felt like I had just signed over my soul.
Yeah.
Know?
Because I didn't act like myself. I wasn't myself. You know what I mean? Like, my temper, I was crazy. Like, I didn't even know how to control myself. Like, my emotions were like all over the place. Like, someone pissed me off, I was like whipping shit. Like, it was scary. Like, I could go from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. People didn't want to be around. Like, it was terrifying. Like, I was very, very scary person. And like, I knew that wasn't me, but I couldn't stop acting like that. And it was just like, yeah, spiritual warfare for sure.
That's why I tell people, like when people say things about people like being on Suboxone and saying that I traded addictions and stuff like that. That's why I tell people, like, you didn't know Nicole in active addiction. Nicole in active
Oh my gosh.
addiction was a liar, a cheater, a thief, a fucking adulteress. I was just like not dependable, not trustworthy. Like, I was just a mess, you know?
Yeah.
It's so different. I'm such a different person than I was back then. I'm the person I was before I ever even used drugs. I'm the real Nicole, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the exact same, only I feel like I'm actually elevated, because it's like, before I didn't have this awareness, and I didn't have, and like, even my therapist would say that, and she's like when we talk about my addiction, I'm like, I wouldn't trade what I went through for the world, because honestly, I feel like this like propelled me closer to the person that I'm meant to be than if I were to never go through that, and how long the journey would have been to be like where I am today, because I've like, it forced me to look at all the shadow parts of myself. Like, I couldn't sit there and be like, oh, I yelled because of that person said this to me. It's like, no, you have to take responsibility for every single thing that you're doing wrong. And it like forces you to do all that stuff. You know what I mean? So I feel like that like propelled me into like who I am today, for sure, because I am closer to who I'm supposed to be than I ever was before I did drugs, I think, personally.
Did you get sober while you were in that rehab?
No. So no, it's okay. I left rehab, and then I kept going back to the fentanyl. Well, actually, first I went back to the cocaine, and I was like, oh, if I do cocaine, who cares? It's here and there. That's not my drug of choice. But then I started getting so high that I was like, no, I need something to bring me down. And so my fiance now, he never got sober. And I remember texting me and like, so like, you sober yet? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, almost like I wanted to be with him so bad that I went to do, like, I was willing to use drugs again just so I could hang out with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not that that was his fault, and like, not like any, like it was me. It was just like, okay, well, if I'm going to be around you, you're doing drugs, I'm going to want to do drugs. I don't care at this point, kind of thing.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So I kind of fell back into it for like 6 months, I'd say. And then I stopped taking my Suboxone because I was just getting sick. Like, that happened to me one more time where I took it and I had done fentanyl too close together. And I'm like, never again. I'm not taking this shit ever again. I cannot do that to myself anymore. So I ended up getting onto methadone. So when I got sober the last time, he was going to rehab. And then I said, fuck it, I'm going to get sober now too. And so I went to my mom's and I detoxed there, but I was on methadone, so it wasn't that as bad of a detox. Good. So we did it for probably about 9 months ish. And then he was like, okay, I'm ready. I need to go to like rehab. And he went to a whole different rehab, and he went like 3 hours away, kind of thing. And I remember I went to drive him and I was just crying. Like, I couldn't even see. Like, we literally had to stop and like someone else had to bring him a different day because I was just crying. It's like, I want to go with you. Like, I don't want to be here by myself. Like, I don't even care if I want to go with you. I want to go to rehab again because like, I can't do this alone, type of thing. Like, I was so like defeated at that point because I remember sitting in detox. We went and visited him, like me and my mom. And he's like, I was like, honestly, this last time that I relapsed, like, made me really think, like, am I ever going to be able to stop doing this? You know what I mean? I had that like realization, like, this is real. Like, you just went to rehab and you're still using drugs. Like, what the fuck type of thing. it's scary. I was just like, is this my life? Like, this is my life. This is what I'm going to be. Like, I'm not going to ever be able to stop doing this. And I started kind of like getting scared. So when he went from that detox there, I went to my mom's to detox and I went on methadone. And then, so now I have 3.5 years sober. When he got out of rehab, he called me and said, can you come get me? And I said, yep. And then we've stayed together ever since. And
he's sober too.
Yes, we're both 3.5 years sober.
What is y'all? How do y'all stay so? What do y'all do? So me and Neil, we're sober too. But
yeah,
whenever I got sober, I made the mistake of like trying to trying to get my husband to do sobriety the way I was doing sobriety. And he's just like the opposite of me. Damn, that hurt. He's the opposite of me. He doesn't like talking about his sobriety. He doesn't like sharing his story. He doesn't like going to meetings. So what about you guys?
So that's the exact same with us. He's like, he'll talk about like his feelings and stuff, but he's not a big. But so that's why I go to therapy. I feel like I have like a really good outlet with her. I'm very like open and honest with her and stuff. And he doesn't mind listening. He'll listen, but like he's not, and he'll get into his modes where he wants to talk about it and stuff, but he has his own way with dealing with it. And like when we first got sober, I feel like I did that to him, like especially the first time when I got sober and he wasn't getting sober and I came back from rehab. I'm like, oh, you're ruining your life. I was so judgmental and so nasty to him. I'm like, how could you still be doing this? Like, look at you. Like, this is disgusting. And I just made him feel like shit, you know? And it was like so mean of me, but like, I just thought I was like on one because I was sober now, you know? But this time it was like, I don't even know what really changed. I feel like we were both just like knew it. And like I had always told him like, okay, if we get sober, like I think we can actually try. And like, I think what makes us work too is we're best friends first. Like we've always been friends and then we got into a relationship, and I've never done that with any other boyfriend I've ever had. It's always been like relationship. So I feel like we have like a level of respect as friends that we're able to like, I don't know, help each other in just not like such a romantic way all the time. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, so for me too, I don't go to meetings and neither does he. So that's like a big thing. When I first got sober, I did because I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. I had no spiritual guidance. I had nothing. I had no friends. And it helped me for a little bit. But kind of once I started getting on my own path, I feel like I didn't need it as much anymore. And I think it's an amazing tool. And I think that it does help people stay sober. But I just kind of outgrew the meetings I was going to and stuff. And I kind of just like found my own path, I guess, you know, like I just found my own, like my own spiritual path. Yeah. So
4 years I was in meetings all the time, but then I kind of grew out of it and like made my own meetings and started going to different kind of programs and stuff like that. Since y'all are a couple and everything, like, do you notice like, is he on methadone too or no?
Yeah. Yes.
So y'all are both on methadone. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Do you guys have any issues with your sexual, getting it on?
At first. So we were on super high doses of methadone. And yeah, that was like really bad at first. I didn't want to be touched, either did he. And I did something really stupid. And I got to a point where I was on such a high dose of methadone. I started freaking out. Like, I can't think. I can't like live, I'm like tired 24/7. It's like, what's the point? I started getting like really frustrated. So I was like, cold turkey, I'm done.
Oh,
and
no.
I know. And I got off of it and I was like 5 days in, I was losing it. And I went back and got back on, but then I could go on a lower dose. So it sucked. But then I was on a lower dose than he was at that point. So I feel like my stuff started coming back before him. And that got me really insecure because I'd be like, oh, like, don't you think I'm attractive? And he's like, yes, like, but that has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it has nothing to do with you. It's just like, you're at a different stage with like being able to have that stuff come back and I'm not, you know what I mean? So it was like a sore spot for a little bit, but I feel like once we got past that hump, it's okay because it's like low enough. I feel like once I hit like 50, 40 milligrams, it was just okay. It was back to normal, but that was definitely a sore spot.
And I told everybody because people ask me a lot about methadone questions. And the only experience I have with methadone is my husband was prescribed it for a really long time. And I was taking his methadone. So we were splitting it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know that when we got down to like 30 milligrams, that's whenever, like I felt like my hoo-ha was going, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, definitely. It's a lot. I liked Suboxone a lot better. Personally,
Yeah, me
like
too.
I don't still don't really like methadone, but I'm at a point where it's like I'm so close to being done that it's like whatever. But it's a very it's a it still numbs you a lot in a lot of ways, like mentally, physically, and stuff. So yeah, it was hard. But and like I even commented on that post. I think I was just like, when I started like to have sex sober again, I was like, oh my god, I feel like a virgin. Like I feel like
Yeah.
so weird. Like I don't want to like take anything off. Like I don't know. I felt so like uncomfortable because it was just like I had to relearn myself, let alone let someone else learn me. Like you know what I mean? It was like really,
Yeah.
it was really weird. Like I had a hard time with it for like a little bit for sure.
When you guys like have, when you guys have little disagreements and stuff, have you found that like since you're sober now, you have a better communication style and all that?
Okay, I think that he. So I know how you like always say that you and your husband are like like he's so perfect. Yeah, you have. That's how I feel. Like we don't argue, like really argue and stuff. And it's like for me anyway, he has been such a help on my growth because he's like a mirror. So I'm very outgoing and very loud and very like combust, like I'll like freak out and stuff like that. But he's so chill and so cool. So if we get in an argument, it's like yelling at like a dog, like a puppy or a child. It's like you're like, what the fuck? And he's like looking at you like, I don't know. And you can see how like idiotic you're being. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a reflection back, like, oh my God, I'm being ridiculous. You know what I mean? So if anything, like that's helped me not like yell and stuff. And like our communications got a lot better because I was like, it's like a mirror now, you know, like I'm able to see what I'm doing because he's so calm that like my actions are very like in my face when I'm doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Or if I'm like trying to egg him on for a fight and he doesn't like fall into it, well, I just look dumb. So it's like very easy for me to see those things now. So I think I was able to like see those things a lot quicker and like fix them early on in our relationship. So, but it's definitely helped when we were using, I was crazy. Like I would like torture him. You know what I mean? Like with like just being like mean. So, and the fact too is like, yeah, and like, and I feel bad, but it's just like we both said, like, don't get me wrong, he had his bad things too, but it's like we both saw each other at our absolute worst. Neither of us will ever be worse than that. So if he loved me then and I loved him then we definitely gonna like, we both deserve the best of each other now for sure, because I know that he genuinely loves me, because even when I was being like that, he knew that wasn't me and he was still willing to like work through that because he knew like that's not who you actually are. I know that's like the drugs fucking with you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like just having both sides has like even helped. Like a lot of people say don't get in a relationship with like someone you used with or like right after, but I personally think that it helped like both of us stay sober, to be honest, having that someone to like lean on and understand what you're going through.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason why they say that is because, you know, a lot of people, when they get in relationships, it brings on like, you know, extra stress that they normally wouldn't have. But like you guys y'all were together basically, you know, and then me and Neil were together whenever we got sober. And so I wasn't going to just leave him and throw him to the curb. You know, I'm sure you didn't want to do that, but I would have if he didn't want to get sober and change his life. You know what I mean? And so I think, you know, you got to say, are you ready to change your life? If not, you could go your way. I'll go my way and do my thing.
I think it only worked because we were both serious. Exactly. Like we both were like, it's real. We both moved out of that town. You know what I mean? We changed everything, changed people, places, things, like got out and like started like a new life technically. You know what I mean? So,
what is your plan? Yeah. So are you going to get off of, do you want to get off of methadone or are you going to stay on?
I want to get off because I feel like I have the tools to like, I think I'll be okay without it. I am nervous because I do still go piss every 2 weeks to go make sure I'm clean and stuff. And like, as much as you take that for granted, it's like that accountability is gone. So then what? If I have that little thought in my head, like, oh, well, you can just do something and no one will know. They actually won't know because I don't have to go pee anymore and I won't have carries taken away.
Right.
So like that makes me a little nervous to that point. But my doctor even said, he's like, if you want to still come in and pee and not have methadone just for the accountability purpose, then do that. He's like, this is a recovery clinic. It's not just a methadone clinic. So if that's what you have to do to stay sober for a little bit, then do it kind of thing. And I like that idea just to keep you like that accountability still, you know?
Absolutely.
But I do want to get off.
And I know how you feel. Like I'm on a really tiny amount of Suboxone, and honestly, I feel great now. I have my energy back. When I was on a higher amount, and I'm sure this happened to you when you were on higher amount, it made me real lethargic. I was just not my self that I am now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Suboxone, and I'm sure you can say the same, methadone saved our lives, and it helped us so much. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep. I would not be where I am.
Anybody feel like, bad because, Coralee wants to get off, or might get off one day. You do whatever you need to do for your sobriety, y'all. Okay. Like, really
absolutely. Seriously. Methadone, the amount of work I was able to do in 3.5 years on methadone is insane. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without it. I know 1,000% fact that I would not be where I am today without like Matt, and like 1,000%. Yeah, I want to get off, but that's for my own like personal reasons. You know what I mean? Like, will I go back on? Possibly. You know what I mean? But who says that that's like forever? For like my journey, my goals coming up, that's what I want to do. He's higher than me. He's taking this sweet time. You know what I mean? Like, we are not at like we don't have to be on like the same page or anything. You know what I mean? So he's taking his time and I'm taking my time. And just if I do get off, doesn't mean I'm off forever. If I find that I'm struggling and like I'm having a really hard time, I don't care to go back. Like, I don't care if I have to go back on. If that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. Like, very strong in that belief.
Because people will get off and then they'll feel so ashamed to fuck that shit. Don't be ashamed. Yeah. If you are about to relapse, you go back to that clinic. You run into there. What was the hardest part of getting sober for you? Like, what was the most challenging thing?
I think just being honest with myself. Actually having to sit there and be like, there are bad parts of you. Like, you're not perfect and not everything is everyone else's fault. And there are some things that are 100% your own problems and your own fault kind of thing. And then really sitting there. But I feel like that also causes this weird tendency in me to like also get pissed off when people don't take accountability. And I feel like I have to have more grace with that. But sometimes it's just like, damn, like, do you know how much I have done to be to where I am, and like how much I've had to like look at myself and be like, you've done this wrong, blah, blah, blah. And you can't even say that like that one argument was your fault. You know what I mean? So it's like, I do need to be more gracious with that too. Cause not ever, but like, yeah, I think that was like both sides of that is the hardest part. It was like being able to do that for myself and then also having compassion for people who aren't at that point yet, I guess too.
I'm learning that too, honey.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for me because I feel like I have worked so hard. Whenever what I did was the fourth step, and I worked with my therapist and with my sponsor. And when I started going through that and finding the wrongs that I did and the part that I played in a lot of the resentments and things that I had, I literally broke down crying because I was like, wow, I have been a piece of shit for so many years. This is what I did to my mom and dad. They have been worried about me for 15 years. I have been giving my parents ulcers and damn near giving them heart attacks. And the guilt. And then my son, what I did to my son, all the guilt and the shame just started like, and I was just crying my eyes out. And I had to go through that and take accountability for everything I've ever done wrong, make amends to the people who I wronged. And so I feel like
that's hard.
It is really hard.
It's like it's such a hard hit to your ego. And like and then so to like hear people not be able to take like fault for anything, especially when it's like very obviously something they did, I have such a hard time with that. I'm like, I still just like, I'm like, damn, like, you can't even take
so good, though. Like, for real, you're very self-aware, and self-awareness is a gift that, we get whenever we get sober. And it's because we weren't self-aware when we were fucking high. When we're high, we're fucking acting crazy, walking around with our head up our ass. And then all of a sudden you get sober and you fucking realize everything and you see yourself for who you really are. And you're like, have I been acting like this this whole time? I'm fucking embarrassed.
Oh yeah. And then sometimes too, it's like, I feel like that self-awareness almost like at first is too much. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like once you start to get self-aware, like you're almost like, oh my God, and you're like over analyzing everything. And like, I feel like to me that started to like trip me out, I was like, wow, like, but then over time it's like, it's a blessing, definitely. But
did you go through the awkward stage when you first got sober, like not knowing how to talk to people while you were sober?
Yes, I went through I literally felt like a newborn baby. Like I felt like I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, now what do I do? Like I felt so weird doing anything. I didn't like because I didn't know who I was and I didn't have my footing for anything. It's like I don't know what shows I like. I don't know what colors I like. I don't know like anything. I don't know what type of person I like. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh yeah, it was and I feel like that also too like played a part in having really bad anxiety for a little bit because I was so self-conscious of everything I was doing. I was like, great, that made me sound like so dumb, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I was just like very self-aware, but didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, that was awful, but kind of good because then it's like a clean slate. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's actually kind of good though because that was a clean slate to like really figure out who I was. You know what I mean? It was sucking going through it, but then it also like helped me really figure out okay, like who are you? You know, you have like you're starting from a clean slate now. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know what you mean by like I would start trying to talk and I would stutter. I just felt so insecure. I
yes,
felt like I had rewinded myself all the way back to like when I was first becoming a teenager, you know?
yeah,
Because that's
oh yeah,
basically when I started using is when I was when I was a teenager. And so I feel like I rewound back to that maturity level and was just getting started again. What I
yeah.
wanted to ask you was, you're 3.5 years sober now. I would like for you to share with everybody, what do you do on the daily that helps you maintain sobriety? And also what happens if let's say somebody walks up to you and they got dope, or you are in the bathroom and you look down to the right side of you and there's a baggie of fentanyl there or some cocaine. Like, how do you cope with triggers in your life, and what do you do to stay sober every day? Like, what's your little routine?
Okay, so that's what I was just about to say. I have to have a routine. As soon as I don't have a routine, I feel so my biggest thing is like not being bored because I feel like when I'm not I don't have a routine and I'm kind of just left to my own devices. That's my biggest like thing. Once I start thinking like, oh, I have nothing to do. And like, that's one thing I really liked about rehab is you learn just to be bored. There's nothing to do,
Yeah.
figure something out to do. You know what I mean? And also I like to work out. So I work out like about 3 to 4 times a week. Well, I think too, it helps because I played soccer, like, and not having that anymore, like growing up playing soccer and then just doing nothing. Like, so I feel like it's just something that feels comfortable to me. Like, it's just something I like to do because it's something I grew up with. So, but yeah, it's pretty much just having a routine and sticking to a routine. Like every single Sunday I sit there, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do this week and stuff? And like, I like fill in my time so I don't have too much downtime doing nothing, but, and
so
if I were to ever,
you have
yes,
you plan your weeks.
Yes.
To me, that's so important because
Yes.
if you plan and you have these things dialed in on these, then Joe Blow, if Joe Blow shows up at your front door trying to get you to go do cocaine, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I've got to do this today, or I
have priorities.
I'm committed to this.
Exactly. And before I was just such a flaky, like you couldn't trust me type of person that now it's like, if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. And like, I want my word to mean something. And I think I'm like a little bit too overboard when it comes to that because it's just like my word meant shit before. Like my word meant nothing. No one trusted me for anything. So now when I say something, it's like, I want you to know I mean it. If I say I'm going to be somewhere or do something, I'm going to be there and I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that keeps me very accountable. And like, I actually have run into drugs before, like in my sobriety. And honestly, it like scares me at this point. I have like less of a craving. If I like have more of a craving, if I don't see it, than if I actually see it in front of me, if that makes sense. Because then it almost becomes too real. Yeah, like I would have more of a craving to be like, oh, I kind of want to do drugs, whatever, but then I can kind of get over it. But if I were to actually see the drug, like I have seen cocaine before, and that almost is more scary to me than it is like tempting because it's just like, that can fuck up my life right there. Like that's like immediately the first thought I think of. It's just like, I'm like, oh shit, like I could get high. Cool. It's like, oh my God, get that away from me because that's going to ruin everything that I've just built for myself type of thing, So it's like more of a scary thing to me at this point than it is like tempting, I guess.
Do you ever have do you have thoughts of using sometimes, or you just don't think about it at all?
I think that the methadone definitely helps with that. I do sometimes, but if I do, it's nothing serious. It's not like I'm actually gonna get up and go and get something. It might be just like me and my like fiance will look at each other and be like, oh, like I want to get high. Me too. Haha. And then that would be it kind of thing, It's like, but nothing like from more than that, I guess. But I do think that has a lot to do with the methadone. The methadone definitely like helps stop those like intense cravings, you know.
People
I
I
have
talk
more.
to that have tapered off of MAT, they tell me that when they taper completely off of it, that's when they feel, you know, more cravings coming on. But I feel
Yeah,
like you guys, if you practice and you start really drilling into your mind, like how to get through, you know, your triggers and everything, I feel like you can make it through anything. You know, I've
oh,
seen so many
absolutely.
people be successful, like on go from Suboxone to Sublocade and then nothing, and they're doing amazing because they really have changed the way they think. They changed their
Yes.
perception. They changed their, they don't live in that drug addict. See, you can't live in that world anymore. You can't think it's cool to be, you know, on the streets, gangster, boo, boo, boo. It's like not cool. You cannot play. You can't have one foot in there and one foot out and be just like dancing
I
on the
feel like
line.
once you have that awareness, that never goes away. And I think that's what I really fucked me up when I was using is I never wanted to get that awareness that I had a problem. Because as soon as you know that you're an addict and I have a problem, it's never fun again. You can never go and have a binge or go get fucked up and just be carefree ever again. Once you have that realization that you're like dependent on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but then what you're saying about the methadone is I 100% agree. I think that's why it's helped. It's like help me create patterns that I'm so used to thinking a certain way and doing a certain thing that when it's gone, those patterns are so like cemented in my brain now. Yeah, that I'm like, I say I'm nervous, but I really like, I think I've got it pretty good. Like, I don't ever want to be too cocky because, you know, you don't want to ever like be overconfident about stuff like that. But I do think that I've come a really far way that at this point, like I've made such good patterns and routines that like I'm confident with the way I think and stuff now, you know, like you said, it's like, it's not cool. Like it actually like we joke about it all the time. It's like, I feel like I'm 28, but I feel like a grandma. Like I'm literally like at home, like I want to be in bed by 9. Like I got to get up in the morning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I can't live like that anymore. Like my neighbors will make noise at like 11 and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do I need to call the cops on them? Like, that's like, I'm joking, but like, it's just like, like why are you partying at like 11 o'clock? Like, what are you doing? But like, yeah, no, I just, yeah, I'm so removed from that life at this point that it's just like, yeah, I could never go back. At least that's what it feels like right now.
We lived that life. And the thing about drug addicts is that we get to live, you know, actually 3 lives. 3 lives. We lived our lives before we started addiction. We lived our lives in addiction, and now we get to live our lives on the other side. So we get to experience that experience, and that we're still alive to share the tale about it, you know? And so I just feel like, especially with you being 28, I feel like that's kind of young, you know, the fact that you're sober at 28, that's really fucking awesome, you know? Like, yeah. So that means you got sober at 24 or 25.
20. Yeah, like about 24. Yeah. Would have been, yeah.
That's pretty young.
I know, that's crazy. I know. You know. But that's the thing. It's like, I had to, like, I know it was young. And like, I think that what even though it was pretty young, what kind of deterred me from doing it, it's like, damn, like I didn't get to do anything as a teenager. And now I'm 28. Now I'm like 24 and I have to go to rehab because like, do you know what I mean? It was like a piss off almost. It's like, I like gave away my chance to like be able to like party and do stuff, you know, but like maybe it was just never meant to be.
Did you gain weight on methadone at all?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, that made me very insecure. I was, okay, so I'm 5'10", 5'9", 5'10". Yeah, I'm tall. I was 89 pounds when I went into rehab.
Wow.
It was disgusting. I didn't have a period for 2 years. So when I went into rehab, when I went to the doctor, they literally said that like I could have pushed myself into menopause and then I could have never had a chance to have kids or anything because I would have pushed myself into early menopause. So when I started started the methadone and started just like eating like a normal person, I gained so much weight because my body was like, oh my God. And it just like held on to everything. Cause it was just like, what if you starve yourself again? Then like, you're not going to have anything like in you. So I gained a lot of weight, which was really hard because I was so skinny, and even just gaining like 110 pounds, which you're 5'9", 5'10", like 110 pounds is still tiny. I was like, oh my God, I'm fat, you know, like that really screwed with my head. Like that started making me have very weird body dysmorphia because I was looking at myself at 110 pounds going, oh my God, what the hell? You're fat, you know? So it was just like, that was a big adjustment too, to like start to like realize what healthy weight is and like, it's okay. You don't have to be like this big, you know, like that. Yeah, that was really hard for me.
I know how weight gain has been the hardest. I am struggling so much with that. So what is it? I saw a question. Oh yeah. Jessica said something about, did the drug stop your period or methadone? Well, it's like a combination of the drugs and sorry, I felt
That's okay. I was like, wait a sec, do I exit? It was the drugs that stopped my period.
okay. I had no period too whenever I was using drugs. So.
I honestly don't even think it was the drugs. I think it was just not eating. I think it was just being being skinny. Like that's what that's what stopped the periods. Yeah.
Same. I lost my hair because I had lost so much weight. I lost chunks of my hair out of my head. Like I had
oh my goodness,
a big old bald spot this big right here. And then I had little bald spots all over my head. It was so scary.
Yeah. And when I started once I got my period back, I was almost like I had my period for my first time again. And so my hormones were like trying to sort themselves out. And I got the worst acne I have ever, worse than I even had it in like high school. My skin went insane for like a year and a half. I was just crazy acne. Like it was terrible. I would like look in the mirror and I would start crying. I'm like, how is this happening? Like, I don't understand. Nothing I'm doing is working, but it was just my hormones trying to like regulate themselves again, you know, like just be like, okay, what's going on? Like, and it took like over a year and a half for them to like finally get to like a place where it's normal again, you know?
That's why I'm such a stickler for our self-care and our skincare in the evenings. Because I was the same way when I first got sober. I had the chin strap of fucking acne right here.
Yep.
And I was so insecure about it. It made me feel like shit. You know?
Yes, me too. Yep. And then
your man gonna get married and have kids, you think? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're engaged and we're gonna be sometimes this year. We think we just want to like elope, possibly. Like I don't think like we want to do like a big wedding. If I'm gonna spend money, I want to spend it on like my dress and stuff, you know, and like I don't know. I don't want to have to like spend a bunch of money for people to like drink and eat and like I don't know. We just have like a few people we want there and just like quickly do it. It's not that important to us, but and kids, I have such bad baby fever. You have no idea. Like I want babies so bad. So babies hopefully
they're such a wonderful thing. And now you're sober. I'm so happy for you that you're sober. And
I know.
Experience that, you know?
Me too. And like the fact that I knew, like the fact that when I did like was doing drugs, I'm like, oh, I don't want kids, blah blah. And it's like if I would have like push myself into menopause and never had kids and then be like where I am today and like as bad as I want them, that's like devastating to me. Like to think that I could have done that to myself and like it's no one else's fault but my own. That's like so scary. But like I don't know, I flipped back and forth, but now that like I'm 3.5 years sober and I just like feel like myself and like we have such a healthy relationship and stuff, it's just like I feel like part of my purpose is to be a mom. Like I just feel like I've dealt with my parents and it's like I've learned their mistakes and stuff and I feel like I've gone through so much that I just like I really do think I'm going to be a good mom. Like I very like confidently can say like I think I'll be a very good mom. I have so much love to give and so much I want to like to teach and stuff and like I finally found someone who I think would be an amazing dad and like who's an actual partner to me and stuff that it just that's definitely
you were describing when you met him and how y'all were together and inseparable and it just felt like that's exactly how me and Neil were when we met. We met and then he put his arm around me and it made me feel like, you know, and then we were basically never spent any time apart from each other, you know?
Yeah. Guys, I feel like
these are healthy relationships. These are relationships. My husband's not abusive. Her old man's not abusive. You know, my husband works. Her old man works a job. We both work. Like, these are healthy communication relationships. Like, not behind the scenes doing foul ass shit. Like, these are good relationships.
I honestly feel like I'm not whatever. This may sound whatever, but I feel like what me and you have is very rare. You know, to find someone in active addiction and then get out and actually be a very healthy relationship. I feel like that's like, doesn't happen all the time. That's to just say that much. Like, yeah, it definitely can happen, but I don't think it's something that's like a very common thing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel very, very lucky to have found someone in active addiction who has the same pure heart as me. Because that being an active addiction, you find a lot of nasty people.
Yes,
so I feel like that's why we had such a connection, and maybe why you and your husband had such a connection is because it's like two pure hearts actually finally found each other in like the mess of like evil in a sense, you know what I mean? And so like that connected us like immediately. We're like, oh my God, like, and it felt safe, like right off the bat, you know?
Yeah. And I say this because y'all, I don't want any of you guys out there to settle for less than what you deserve, because that's what I did for a long time. I was in an abusive relationship. I didn't think I deserved any better. And I was in my addiction and I was sick. And so don't settle for less. Look for somebody that loves you and holds you up and respects you and like treats you like a lady. You know, that's what it's supposed to be. Don't settle for less. Okay, I got to ask you one last question. Okay. So what would you say to somebody, maybe they're in the chat right now, maybe they'll watch this video on the replay, that is sitting there watching the show and they are shooting up, they cannot stand to live their life any longer, they want to die, they want to commit suicide because their addiction has just gotten so out of control, they don't know what to do. What would you say to that person?
I would say if you have any fight in you that you can find, just keep fighting, because there's so many people, like if you feel alone, like trust me, you are not alone in that moment. We have all felt that. And like at that time, you could think that no one understands your pain, but there's so many people who do understand your pain and are willing to help you. And if you can just find that little bit of fight in you to keep going and try to get better, you have no idea what your life could be. Like the things you can dream of, there's things you can't even dream of this moment of what your life is going to turn out to be like. And just don't give up. There's like so many people who want to help and and that care about you. And there's a lot of people who have been through what you've been through, and you can find people who understand you and get you and want to help.
Don't give up hope.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Reach out for help.
Just you
gotta reach out though, because we can't come save you if you're not reaching out now. You gotta throw us a hand up in the air or something. If
there's that little glimmer of still something inside you, there's a reason for that, and just keep chasing that, because you are probably meant for something a lot bigger than what you're doing right now. That's for sure.
That's what I believe. I believe every single one of you guys that has made it out of addiction, it's because there was a bigger purpose for you.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you have been saved from the madness, because you have a plan. God has a plan, or your higher power, whoever you guys believe in, has a plan for you in the future, man. And like she said, you can have an amazing life, things that I would have never imagined that I would be damn near having my car almost paid off in 2 months. What?
Exactly.
We sold my car, for $3,000 and got it impounded. What the fuck?
Yep. 100%. We'll look at each other, me and my fiance will look at each other and just be like, how did that, and it's only been 3 years. It's we were using he was using for way longer than I was even. And it's in only 3 years, we've gotten so much more than we've even lost, that it will come back easier than you think. So just keep pushing and keep trying.
8 years, you're going to be
exactly.
You'll have a kid. We'll be talking and you'll have a kid. You'll be
yeah, exactly. I hope so.
You did really good. And I really appreciate
Thank you.
Coming on.
I hope I didn't talk too much. I feel like I rambled so much. It's once I start talking, it's okay.
You did amazing. That's what I like. It's just listen, there's no production here. It's just all hanging out, and you are so honest and relatable, and I really appreciate you. And everybody else is in the chat saying how amazing you are. And thank you so much for coming on. And congratulations on your 3.5 years. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. You made it very comfortable to talk. So I rambled forever.
You're welcome.
But I appreciate it.
It'd be okay. So this is what I want to do. Okay. Next year, in a year, when you hit your 4 years, in 6 months, when you hit your 4 years, let's do a catch-up video and have you on the channel to come talk about your 4 years sober, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, girl. I love you. I'm going to put you off here, and then I'll see you later, okay? I'll text you after this.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, baby. Bye. What did you guys think about my girl? Coralee, she did amazing. I don't think she rambled at all. I'm very grateful that she liked to talk, because that makes my job a lot easier. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to Coralee's experience, strength, and hope. And if you're somebody who's like watching and you're struggling with your addiction and you feel like you can't do it another day, you feel like you're never going to get sober. I felt the same way too. Okay. I felt like that for a really, really long time. I had become completely okay with dying with a needle in my arm. And I can't believe I ever felt like that, because now I feel so much better. Sure, I have my days where I'm not, the happiest, and I might have some depression sometimes, but it's nothing that I can't work through. It's nothing worth picking up drugs and alcohol and throwing away the life that I have today. I've built a life for myself that I don't want to lose, and you can do the same. Absolutely, you can do the same. And I really want you guys to listen to me, because you can. I'm just a regular person. I'm just a regular girl. I'm not the prettiest. I'm not skinny. I'm just a regular mom. I have a little boy. I'm not rich. And so if I can get my life together and change my life, then anybody can. If Coralee can get her life together and change her life, then anybody can. So I just want you guys to believe in yourselves. I know it's so hard whenever you're going through the, circle jerk of using drugs and alcohol, and, going up and then crashing and burning, going up and then crashing and burning. But if you can just find a moment of clarity and get out of there and put your hand up and say, hey, I need help. There's so many people that'll help you. And you guys know you can always message me. I just went through all of my messages on Facebook and I got through all of them. It's completely clear on my spam side. So I'm sure I'm going to have to go back over there tonight and go through them. But I'm checking all my messages all the time, you guys. Okay. And I do my best to answer back every single person. All right. I really, really do work really hard. If I haven't answered you back or I missed your message, just resend it. Okay. I promise. I will. I promise you, like, I work really hard on making sure that I get back to you. But yeah, that's it. That's our first interview starting this new season of Discovering Nicole. Okay. Next Thursday, we have another guest speaker coming on. And who did I put down for next Thursday? Shit balls, let me tell y'all. Okay. I got a whole crew scheduled, you guys. Okay. Oh, what? Hello. Get off there. Okay. Okay, so next Thursday, Lindsay is going to come tell her story, okay? Then on March 9th, we got Melissa. On March 16th, Allison. March 23rd, Molly. And then March 30th is Wildflower Tea, the tea channel. I like her. I don't know her first name, but she's going to come tell her story. So what I'm doing is now I'm looking for people that will come share their stories in the month of April. We're doing one interview a week. So that way each person's interview has time to shine. Okay. And what I would really love for you guys to do is to share this video. Share it in all the Facebook groups that you can share it in. Share it across everywhere you can. Okay. So let's get Coralee her time to shine. So that way people can hear her story. There's gonna be a lot of people who need to hear her story, who can relate to her. And that's what I want to do for each person who comes and shares their story. I want to really push their video and help people, to hear it. Give them their time to shine. You know what I mean? So if you are willing to tell your story in the month of April, please send me a message and let me know. Either send me a message on Instagram, send me a message on Facebook Messenger. If you have my cell phone number, text me. Just get a hold of me, all right? And I will start scheduling for April. So hit me up. I would love some men to come on and share their stories. If any of you guys out there are willing to share your story, hit me up. Okay? Yeah, so that's it. Tomorrow night, at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll be live with my members and patrons only. So if you have joined Patreon or you have joined the membership team, Kevin, okay, good. Then Kevin, will you text me, please? So that way we can get you scheduled for a day in April. That would be great. Thank you so much. Thank you. That I should have known that, duh. And I need to get a hold of Luke too to ask him. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, members and patrons only. Listen to me, members. There's 30 of y'all. I want to see every single one of y'all in that damn chat tomorrow night. And my patrons, okay? There's 20-something of you guys. We should have a packed house tomorrow. Do not come. I mean, if you're working or something, I understand. But we really want you to come because what we do in there is we all get to know each other, okay? It's private. Nobody can come in and out of it. It's just us, okay? And I put a link in the chat. If you want to come up and talk, you can come up and talk. But we talk about our week that week. We talk about what we're grateful for. We talk about things that we're trying to get, trying to overcome. We talk about our eating. We just talk about everything, okay? And then for anybody that wants to know, then I'm going to start incorporating every other Sunday for members and patrons. We're going to do Dinner with Nicole, where we're going to cook a recipe. We're going to cook a recipe, we're going to eat it, and we're going to prep it for the week, if I have leftovers and stuff, I'm going to try to make leftovers so that way I can prep little meals throughout the week. And then it'll be really cool. So that is going to be something really special because I'm going to put money into buying the food to make the recipe, and we'll do it together. So my Patreon and my membership is not expensive, you guys. It's literally $2 to be a patron and $4.99 to be a member. And you can join any tier, okay? There's no, you didn't join the high enough tier, so you can't come, okay? Just as long as you join a tier, you can be there and take place in all the stuff that we're going to do, okay? But I'm really excited because I'm really trying to put effort into the membership and patron stuff, and I want to make it really fun, and I want to make it to where we are actually getting to know each other and spending time together, okay? Coralee, dude, you did so good. Thank you so much for coming on, for real. Absolutely amazing. And I got a little emotional at the end when you were saying, what you would tell somebody. And after you got off, I started crying my eyes out, telling everybody that they don't need to give up. So I love you guys. I'm going to go. I put fake eyelashes on. I'm going to go take my fake eyelashes off and do my motherfucking skincare. So I love you guys, and I'll see y'all tomorrow, okay? I might pop back on a live to do my skincare. Just let me get off this computer, okay? All right. Bye, you guys.